Second.
I got a motion, I have a second. Let's go ahead and vote. We're not going to have to do a roll call, or is Rodney attending? Hold on, folks. All right, well, we're gonna act without him. When he joins us, I'll do roll calls from that point forward. All right, go ahead and vote, folks. Vote is unanimous, so moved. We've accepted the tonight's agenda. Just let me know if he joins, okay? All right. Up first, under 1A, approval of the minutes of December 14, 2020, the City Council workshop.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Got a motion, I have a second. Any discussion on this? Approving the minutes, seeing none, let's go ahead and vote. Vote is unanimous, so moved. All right, item 2A. Thanks to the decision by our council to have a Christmas parade. I think that was one of the most wonderful decisions of 2020. I think our citizens really enjoyed it. And as you can see by a lot of the people here in attendance, they were glad that we had it as well. So now I will turn the event over to our illustrious Parks and Recreation Director who did all the hard work to make this happen. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here, all you participants, and council for being in the parade. We had a very good parade, and this year it was Joy to the World. I thought that was very appropriate. And the Noel Award is a band award, and it is sponsored by the Destin Rotary. And this year, it is the combination of Fort Walton Beach High School and Destin Middle School. Yay! Y'all come up here now. Come on. Yes, all of you. Come on, anybody who was in the band, if you know how to play an instrument, you need to come up here and be recognized. You guys brought very good joy to our parade. And all right, so do you have the right one? Let's see. This is Fort Walton. And where's Destin? There's another one, Jeff, for Destin. See, Destin's first on that one. All right, very good. Did you smile?
Thank you. Thank you to the winners.
You guys sound great. I think it's really neat that the middle school gets to march with you guys and, teaching them all the right things. So, very good. All right, the ELF Award is a Children's Service Award, and that is sponsored for many, many years by Jim Leofow State Farm. And the winner is Destin Middle School cheerleaders. Woo! Come on. Sorry. Not used to having people not be able to hear me. Come on, girls. Those were sure a lot louder at the parade. Very good. Good girls. It's a lot of hard work. You guys work a lot. What time do you guys go in and practice every morning? 7 a.m. before school? Yeah.
Did they win like a bid to nationals or something as well recently? Or regionals? Nationals? Awesome. Congratulations.
Oh, well, very good. I guess I should have known that. I do have a granddaughter there. Okay. Santa's Helper Award is a children's commercial. And that is AJ's Seafood and Oyster Bar sponsors that. And it's Rise Dance Team. Is Rise here? they didn't think they were going to make it. It doesn't look like they did make it. I think they're dancing. So we'll get that to them. The Civic Club Award is sponsored by Emerald Coast Knights of Columbus. And who does that go to? Crew of Bulllegs. All right. All festive. I like it. Oh, be between you two. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for last minute getting into the parade, too. They were in the Niceville parade, and because we had Niceville and Destin both on the same date this year, which that won't happen again.
We only kind of like half dressed.
The jeans look pretty good with that. Not bad. All right. Well, thank you for coming. You were, yes. Okay, the Chamber Award is for a commercial, best commercial, and the Chamber sponsors it. And that goes to AJ Seafood and Oyster Bar. And Miss Rachel thought she would be able to attend, but she must have got busy, so we'll get that to AJ's. And then the Angel Award, which is a religious award, and that is sponsored by Mike Cheney of Allstate, and he has been sponsoring this award for many, many years. And that award goes to Safe Harbor. Safe Harbor, here we go. That was very nice. And I'm glad you were able to get away from your teaching today. I know you have to get back there, but very good. Good. Thank you very much. It was a really good float. Thank you. Okay. The whole team, yes. Very good. The Crowd Pleaser Award. It was quite appropriate this year. Where are you? Crowd Pleaser, and the City of Destin sponsors the Crowd Pleaser Award, and the award goes to Destin Water User. And if you didn't know, but what did you guys throw out this year? Toilet paper. Yes, yes. It was very cute. Everybody. What did it say on the toilet paper roll?
Where your business is our business.
Very cute. All right, so that was our parade. We had half of our entries this year because of, late. But we definitely had the crowd on the street was there, and everybody that participated did a really good job, and I just can't thank you enough for being there, okay? So, thank you. All right. And, I do want to say something about this parade. This parade we sponsored, we had Gabby Bruce. We lost him. A lot of you he's been in this community for years and years, and he was my line director for the parade, and we lost him, and so we dedicated that, our parade, to Gabby, and his wife was very happy to be there because she was not able to have a memorial for Gabby because of COVID, and so it was a time when she got to be with a lot of her friends in the front of the parade. So it was a Gabby Christmas.
Miss Lisa, are you guys selling those t-shirts?
I don't sell them.
They're very cute. I know people that would buy them.
I know, I do have a lot of people. It's kind of like you have to, yeah. Aren't they cute? Well, thank you. Okay, now we have the Holiday Decorating Awards. And this year, the best home is Sally Bidenharm. I'm not sure how to, yeah, she's your neighbor, Sally. Sally, that's what I know her by, Sally. Sally was so excited to be here, and I talked to her today, and she is feeling not very well. So she did get her sign in her yard and her poinsettia, and so maybe that'll make her feel better. Best organization this year is Chick-fil-A, and I think Chick-fil-A came, yay. Maybe we can get more organizations to decorate, because you guys did really good. It looks really happy when we go by. What? Yes. You guys do a lot of good things.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
Yeah. Look at the professional photographer. Thank you very much. And the best business is I'm Skewed. And that is a new business on 98. And I thought you did a very good job.
She's the manager, she's the one that started.
You're the manager? All right. Yes, you did. Yes, thank you very much. We appreciate you guys doing that. 98 looks pretty like that. And best holiday is Miss Nancy Murphy and James. James is not here. No. Nancy, you've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, about 13 years.
13? Is that, yeah.
Yeah. Gets more fun every year.
And Nancy, what have you done? You've made your street become a little,
Candy Cane Lane, yeah.
yeah.
That was actually started by Bob Dudley, who was the sheriff's deputy down the road.
Okay,
It's kind of between the two of us with competition, and then we kind of came up with Candy Cane.
but that's been a
He
while.
actually-
It's
yeah,
been
he
going
got the
for a
signs
while.
made for
I
us,
believe probably this year was the biggest year,
I
do you think?
As far as the neighborhood, yeah.
And so we did an honorable mention for Candy Cane Lane in
I
Destin.
tried to gather the troops.
Did
but
you?
Everybody was busy, so
So,
I will.
You can share the award out down the street.
I will.
yes,
I will.
you can parade it down there. Yeah, we appreciate that. I think I saw Mars looking like it might be starting to compete.
Yeah, it's a small world. Sally Beaton, my in-laws are still next door to her parents.
Yeah.
It's a small world.
Well, thank you, Nancy, very
Hey,
much.
Lisa, while you're mentioning streets, Main Street this year, there were a lot of people on Main Street that decorated, and I just want to do a shout out to the city of Destin as a whole. There were so many festive homes this year. I was so proud to be a part of Destin because everybody was decorating, and I think it was very heartwarming. So everyone that put in the time to decorate, we really appreciate it, and everyone's a winner. So thank you so much.
Thank you, yeah. All right, thank you. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much. Who do we have representing on this next presentation?
Mr. Mills.
All right, as everybody files out, we'll get ready. Is that going to be online?
Mr. Mills, you should see your control panel pop up in the top right corner if you want to use your microphone and webcam buttons.
All right, we'll turn it
appropriately.
over to him
We'll be able to
once
speak.
once you get him online. Kim, are you at the beach?
And Mr. Mills, lastly, if you could please, if you click your microphone button, currently you'll see it's red and muted at the moment, but there you go. Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, then. I don't think Scott has a presentation per se. He's made himself available to questions. Do you have an opening comment, Scott?
No, sir. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear, sir.
Okay. Yeah, we're good and available for any questions regarding the our surveys that we've provided to you.
All right, at this time, I'll look to any council members. Who wants to start? We'll start with Dr. Ramswell. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you all for being here tonight. know we've been keeping you guys busy, and I just wanted to clarify a few things and find out why it has seemed to be more difficult than expected to get this done. We've received numerous surveys, and I think the first one we got was back on 8/31. The tasking was originally 5/4, so I'm not sure when that came to you guys, but I know with the first one, there was an issue with the parcel numbers, which you corrected on the second one that you sent us. But the area that was originally requested was not included, and some of this, I don't know if it was a translation from staff to you guys or where the disconnect occurred, but sort of building on it, I guess if we want to take a look and just go to the most recent survey, which is sort of like Survey 3B, and it was emailed to us on November the 12th. I had a couple questions about it. Page 2 is actually, and I don't know if you guys have that in front of you or not, but I just wanted to tell you where I am and what I'm looking at so everybody can kind of follow along. So page 2, if you look at page 2 of 13, it shows a common line boundary with a little box, and it says common line as described, and then it's got the 98 and the 2010, I think the deed, and I can't remember what the other document is offhand, but 98 and 2010. So building on that, if you look at page 3, you've still got it there, still existing. However, when you turn to page 4, it now is showing that common line boundary. It's only shown as that 30-foot section up at the top. Or actually, I say the top, but it's the bottom right on the actual survey. And it shows that it's actually line 451352. And the problem is that the 1998 and the 2010 deed, actually that line is 44. It's not 45. And that's one of the enduring concerns that we've had. And I'm just wondering how you can be referencing and utilizing the legal description from 98 and 2010 when that's not what that description says. It's got a different line. And I'll hold there if you want to address that.
Yeah, yes, ma'am, that's simply a bearing-based difference. The 1998 deed is on a different bearing base in the survey world as the submerged land lease survey. Our submerged land lease survey is based on the Florida State Plane Coordinate System, and it's a different bearing base, and deeds are written based on a plat, such as East Pass Towers. They'll use that bearing to start off on. So there's different deeds, but they're intended to fall on the same boundary lines based on collateral call. So there's a perfect instance where those two, the line represents the same line, but just on different bearing bases.
But we're talking about hard calls that are listed in the legal description, so that shouldn't change.
Correct. The hard calls would be the collateral calls.
So how can it be 44, I think 19 something on the 1998 and the 2010 legal descriptions, but suddenly it's showing on page 4 where you've got it there that it's not. It's at the 451352, but everything is still referencing the same deeds.
The bearing base that we depict is on state plane coordinate system.
Okay.
That is the reason why.
Okay, I guess I'm not following you, but we'll go ahead and leave that be for now because I can read a legal description and look at the lines clearly. I'm not a surveyor, but we've also had some folks chime in from the residents in the area who have also pinpointed this is not being correct.
I certainly agree, ma'am. And there again, it's not an issue of not being correct because it is correct. It's very correct. The issue is the bearing basin, and if you're as a non-surveyor, it probably is something that a little bit difficult to understand why that can why you can have two different bearings, but they are indeed correct.
But isn't that like a 30-foot distance difference?
No, you do not project. You cannot project bearings into a tangent to create that we're going to be missing this 30 feet at the end. That's not how it works. The bearing base is referencing the same line. It's just written from a different time period, from a different surveyor or an attorney back in 1998.
Even if it has the same point of beginning?
Correct.
Okay, I'm not sure. All right, we'll leave it there, but from what I've heard and seen in different documents that we've had with the DEP, that's different, and especially when we look at different plans that have been done using different lines. The next question I have is regarding the right-of-way on page 9. Y'all are indicating that as it is documented in a legal description that something's wrong, that there's an error in the deed record. So I'm wondering which documents are you using to plot the right-of-way in this survey and Survey 1 and Survey 2?
Yes, ma'am. In reference to that legal description, you can obviously see the road is in a severely skewed depiction, and it's obviously incorrect. It's not what we wish. It's not what it's the way the deed plots. The reason is because the deed begins at a point on a curve, and the first bearing on the curve is out by approximately 40 degrees in the legal description of the 1998 legal description. So I have seen last week, Mr. Burgess sent me a depiction of what was considered a corrected version of it. However, you have to obey the deed calls on a deed. The surveyor doesn't have the option of correcting a deed. That's the way it plots. If you plot the deed, that's the way it plots. So what we show there is a correct depiction of the ambiguous 1998 deed in error.
So what did you use to plot the right-of-way for all the other ones?
Deeds of record.
Okay, so other deeds of record, since there is a deed of record that you referred to, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I guess my concern is that we're getting all sorts of conflicting information, and the other thing I noticed is that the 30-foot, you did complete that in this last one, which is terrific, but I'm not sure, again, where the disconnect lied, or laid, whatever, lied, I suppose, and why it has taken so long to get to this point. But what is it going to take to try to get that deed that's supposedly a corrected deed for the road corrected? Because now we've got two of them. And did you look and consult both of them?
Yes, ma'am.
So both the original road deed and the corrected one from '09 are incorrect?
What it appears is the 1998 deed was either found to be ambiguous, and the geometry of the 2009 deed was created, and a legal description for that deed to correct the 1998 deed or to reposition the right of way. The 2009 deed actually created a new geometry, more curves, a little bit different configuration. But, you know, I think the question of the day in my discussions with Mr. Burgess is how did the 2009, why was it created? And what would possibly supersede the 1998 deed or the 2009 deed? We can't fix the 1998 deed. The only thing we could do is correct it. Mr. Burgess did provide us a survey that depicted the 1998 description as it should look. However, that appears to be the source of the problem. In 1998, this survey was prepared and the bearing and error was on that survey. And then a few months later, it looks like the deed was written based on that survey, and they held the same bearing, and in doing so, created something that looks much different than the survey.
Okay, so another question then is, one thing that we had asked to see was the property line of the adjacent properties and any accreted sand that was outside that property line. And it looks like you did show with a hash mark here, that final line. Is that correct? Is that what you're trying? It's kind of hard to tell because it's solid, and then you've got sort of the hash line where the accreted sand is.
Yeah, that was something that was we were asked to do, requested to do by the city of Destin. So it does look confusing, and I did express that. The notation that we have, the mean high water line is located at 6720. That is the correct mean high water line as the present date.
So where is the property line then for the parcel ending in, I think it's 20?
As far as regarding the shoreline, the shoreline would be the property line.
Okay, even though it has hard calls as well?
Yes.
Because the hard calls are where you have the thick black line before the accretable sand.
Yeah, again, that was something we were requested to do, but the two bold lines represent the submerged land lease or land. They represent the 30-foot wide submerged land lease.
Right, so what we're trying to do is see where the accretable sand was in terms of the surrounding properties and the mean high water line.
Yeah. The dash line, as we depict, is located on 6720. That is the accreted shoreline.
Okay, repeat that, as it's located on the what?
The notation we have that was located on 6720. That is the current shoreline, so that was what has been accreted since 2017.
Which page are you looking at so I can make sure we're all following along with you?
Page 9.
Okay.
I think he means 8/7/20 on page 9, not 6/7/20, but I'm not sure. I think.
Do you mean
That is correct. It was a little hard to read on the screen. You're correct, sir.
Okay, and again, I guess I'm just questioning because, I really don't know what else to say because, I mean, I can't, you're the surveyor, but I know what I'm seeing and reading and what we've been hearing and the different emails and information we've been receiving. So I guess I'll just stop here, but I guess I really, just from a logical standpoint, I really want to understand how something that is hard called to the 44-minute degree line is the same as something else that's listing it as the 45-minute degree line.
I might be able to answer that. Just say perhaps if a person prepares a deed and they don't really have any information, but they want to start on this boundary line, they say, commence at the southeast section corner and proceed north, or north 00 degrees, east, same thing. But then another surveyor comes in and surveys the property, and they're working off of the adjoiner's deed. And that deed has that same line as north 1 degree east. They're a degree off. So it's a different period of time and a different surveyor preparing a deed that goes along the same property. That's the reason for that, if that makes sense.
I mean, it makes sense, but when you're looking at numbers and they're listed as a hard call and there are degree lines on different plans that we've received, when I look at one plan and there's a property line on the 44 line, and then we look at another set of plans and the line is pushed over to 45 because it's looking at some other legal description, that to me is a 30-foot or so difference. And I want to intellectually be able to understand how that can be the same thing but interpreted differently.
Yeah, you really can't. The notion of there being a 30-foot doesn't exist. You got to. Visually, you're looking at it. You're trying to separate the line and create a new line, but that's not how deeds work. Deeds are on different. Again, I risk of repeating myself, are on different bearing bases, and it's very common in surveying. Surveyors deal with that every single day. It's not unusual. It's a very common to have two deeds describing the same line and on two different bearing bases. It's very common.
Okay, well, I'll stop there because I really don't have anything else to say other than, I'm just going to stop there because I don't know what else to say. I do appreciate you being here and explaining this to us. I don't know.
I hope it helped.
Say again? Oh, yeah, I mean, it appears that I have a different interpretation of information that has been gathered than what you're presenting to us tonight. And that's, like I said, I'm not a surveyor, so I'm just going off what my eye sees and what different information is being presented to me. So I appreciate you bringing this to us. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hold up before you go, Scott. Kevin, you have any questions? Anyone have any other questions? Go ahead, Mr. Destin. I see you about to touch your button.
The object of the survey was to establish the right-of-way, and it appears that you did that, correct?
Yes, sir. Our original task, the objective was to prepare the submerged land lease survey, and in doing so, we plotted the property lines and the right-of-way.
Okay, and at this point, we turn this over to staff, is that correct? We take no action? Help me out, guys.
Yeah, so I guess just to clarify, Dewey, for what the original direction was, this all related to a submerged land lease application that the council had asked to be filed. And so, yeah, if council is satisfied with the survey, then I think it would go back over to staff for them to finish their analysis of the topic.
And the alternative is to take no action at all? And where would that put you?
I think that if no action were taken tonight, then staff would go back and finish their submerged land lease and come back with recommendations to council on how to proceed from there.
You would still use the survey that,
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah.
All right, I got a second, and I got a few folks that want to discuss. So good segue, sir. Go ahead, Ms. Aber.
Thank you, Mayor. Ironically, Mr. Destin addressed exactly what I was going to ask and followed through with the proposal, so thank you, Mr. Destin.
All right, Mr. Oberdehr.
Okay, so now, if this motion passes, then you'll take this survey and use it to submit for a submerged land lease?
I don't think that staff is ready to submit the application itself. They'll simply, I think what staff and the attorneys want to do is go back, look at everything, come back to council, make sure that council is good with the application, make sure that staff, council are on the same page with the application, and that it's something that everybody is okay with submitting to FDEP. If council still wants to submit any sort of application at all to FDEP, so you'll have all your options available.
Okay, so the motion that we're voting on now is just to accept this survey?
That's right, yeah.
All right, Dr. Ramswell.
Thanks. So I guess this is to the surveyors. You indicated that the deed as it exists in terms of the road is incorrect. Is that right? The current one? Do we need to take some action on correcting our deed?
For my discussions with Mr. Burgess, again, it appears, it appears the 2009 deed was prepared to possibly correct the 98 deed. It also appears like the survey, the legal description of the 2009 deed was field surveyed in, because the sheet wall follows along that. If you look at page 9, you can see the sheet wall. So it looks like that was the way that it was intended to be surveyed and described in 2009. Whether or not the 1998 deed should be corrected versus the 2009, as I've discussed with Mr. Burgess, it may be a title issue. Apparently, there's some unknowns there as to how did that happen? How did it get from 1998 deed to a 2009 new and improved deed? What happened? And we as surveyors don't have that answer. And I recommended to Mr. Burgess, and I believe the city attorney is also maybe already in the process of having a title search.
And let me jump in just real quick. Yeah, we've discussed this before at the council meeting. That right-of-way needs to be cleaned up, I believe. I think that anybody with any interest in that and any associated property agrees. There's some issues with that right-of-way from a title and legal description perspective and various instruments that needs to be cleaned up. And our recommendation has been is that since we have a pending development application relating to that land that may affect that right-of-way in various forms, that this council allow the community development staff and the land use attorney to look at all that, particularly meet at a TRC meeting perhaps, and gather more data and be able to present that in a fashion and a process that will simultaneously protect the city legally and also from this right-of-way perspective as we move forward there.
Kyle, I noted that the change from 1998, it used that 4413 that I keep talking about. The corrected deed switched to 45, and that was also in accordance with terminology that said that the right-of-way road would go into the park, not end at the property line. So I'm wondering if that has any bearing on some of the differences.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the kind of stuff that the TRC and community development and land use attorney can look at in their development review process. But again, I just advise that we confine that to that process so that we put the city in a legally defensible position as we move forward throughout this right-of-way issue and related collateral issues.
Absolutely. It's just, obviously, it's important to get this straight as we finish up our Noriega Point project, which this, of course, has a bearing on it.
Mr. Smith, are you done? Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Kyle, let me know if I'm, based on what you're just saying, if we're not asking the right question. But Dr. Ramswell, I know y'all have been doing this for a few years, but I hear what you're talking about, that point, the difference. But is there something specific about that 30 feet that is an issue, that the concern based upon this issue in the survey that we're asking these questions about, that we can hear about now at this meeting, or will that be part of the development order process that we want to wait?
I know that they're building restrooms, and then, of course, there's the infrastructure, there's piping and everything that's going to be going through and across and eventually going under the right-of-way. So, 30 feet one way or another, I mean, it's a difference on a short space between property line and the restrooms, a bigger space, where the piping goes, et cetera.
And just jump in real quick. I mean, I think Dr. Ramswell's concern is legitimate. She just wants to make sure that the park contains everything the park is supposed to contain and that we're building in accordance with the legal documents. And again, I do think that will be something that is run down in that development review process. I understand that this is complicated by the fact that we have our own pending development at the park, but I believe the timing is such that we can run down these issues relatively at the same time, and the existing structures as planned that are to be constructed, I don't believe are going to ultimately be affected by any variance in the boundary line. And right now, based on what I'm hearing, again, I'm not a professional surveyor, so I rely on professional surveyors to give us the data and interpret it correctly. Based on what our surveyors are telling us, based on what right now we have heard from Okaloosa County, who seems to concur with Baskerville-Donovan and FDP surveyors, seems they are all essentially saying the same thing related to that boundary line. And again, I'm not a surveyor, I'm an attorney that's relying on those professionals as we move forward in the park. But I have been, and we've been in communication with FDP, who is managing that those phase 3 improvements. And at this point, they have relayed to us that nothing they have seen so far is concerning them to such a degree that they would, pull our funding or something like that, that they would stop proceeding with permitting. It seems like they are comfortable with where they're at. So again, just a lawyer relying on these surveyors, but the fact that there are so many different surveyors independently coming to the same conclusion, I think lends credence to the conclusion that is being reached. And once we get comfortable as a council in a city with where we're at, and once the county has gone out there and actually conducted a field survey, because right now they've just kind of overlaid the GIS on top of their maps out there, but they seem to be coming to the similar conclusions. Once the county has done that, and FDP is fully completed with their review of this specific issue, all three entities are going to exchange information, and we'll make sure that everybody's saying the same thing, which it seems like at first blush that's what's happening. But again, once you have three separate professionals with three separate agencies all saying the same thing, you've got a pretty good idea of what the truth of the matter is. So.
All right, thank you. Well, we got a motion right now on the floor to accept the survey from Baskerville-Donovan that we paid for at our direction to be used for staff in the technical review committee to use at this time.
And it's not going to be the technical review committee, it's just going to be staff and the attorneys as we look at the submerged land lease application and what we'll recommend bringing back to you.
Sure, I stand corrected on that. So, without any further ado, we have Mr. King has joined us virtually, so we will have to do a roll call vote. So, seeing no further discussion, I'm just going to start with Dr. Ramswell, and we'll go this way. Dr. Ramswell?
Yes.
Mr. Destin? Yes. Mr. Overdare?
Yes.
Ms. Abear,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
and Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Ayes have it, unanimous, so moved. On to item number 3, which is our public comment period. And we don't have a whole lot of folks in the audience tonight, but I will look to the audience for public comment first. Then I'll look over here to James and see if he has anything, and then I'll check with Ray in that order. So, yes, I'm moving on to item number 3. So, Scott, thank you very much for your answers, and you're taking time out of your evening to help us understand some of the technicalities of the industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to the city of Destin. We appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. So now I'll open up the public comment portion of our meeting, and there's nobody sitting here except over in this corner. So any of y'all want to come up and make public comment? This is your time. Seeing none. James?
No, sir.
No one? How about you, Ray? Any emails or text messages?
No, sir.
Seeing none, I'm going to close the public comment period. I want to remind everyone online and/or in this room that there'll be another opportunity for public comment at the very end of the meeting. Up next, City Manager's Report. Take it away, Lance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. First item we have is just a brief update by Mr. Warren on the status of our complaint policy as we get that tweaked to bring forward in January.
Thank you, City Manager and City Council. The status of the complaint policy is we are wrapping that up. We have included a whistleblower policy included with an internal complaint policy, and we're also doing some updates on how the city receives complaints from the public, and we're going to clarify that, so it's going to be on our should be on our website and in a formal policy on what that process is. And so we're expecting this to come back for council to see in January for all 3 policies, so we're excited to bring that back to you.
Item 4B is the alternate plan review and inspection policy. What we have here is in response to a new state statute that allows for developers to perform their own reviews and their own inspections if they have adequate staff and skills on board. It also requires the city to reduce the amount of fees that we charge to those groups since the city is not performing that service. So we are asking for council to vote and approve this policy as a city policy.
I'll make that recommendation.
All right, I have a motion. Go ahead. Do you want to read it out loud?
I recommend that City Council, a motion to adopt the alternative plan review and inspection policy as city policy.
Second.
I got a motion, I have a second. Is there any further discussion concerning this? Mr. Destin?
Just one question, Mayor. How do we define developer? Is it go down to the individual homeowner who wants to pay his own staff to do his inspections and review? Is there any
I can respond to that. The statute actually doesn't say developer. It says owner or the owner's contractor if they're authorized by the owner. So I think the city manager was just kind of paraphrasing.
Okay, I wanted to clarify that issue because I thought it went down to anybody that owns a property and is trying to do something with it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Exactly.
And just to confirm, the city does get the final review, right? And can make changes, approve, deny? Okay.
Seeing none, I'm going to take a vote. So curveball here, we'll start with a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Abear?
Yes.
Mr. Overdeer?
Yes.
Mr. Destin?
Yes.
Dr. Ramswell?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Vote is unanimous, so moved. Go ahead there.
Item 4C is preparation of the re-evaluation of the PD&E study and public involvement element for the Crosstown Connector. In short, this is going to revise that document to reflect a 2-lane roadway instead of the current 4-lane roadway in that document, which will align with what council instructed staff to do. We have Mr. Don Smith, our city engineer, here if you have any questions, and we are looking for council's approval.
I'll entertain a motion at this time. I got a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Discussion. Anyone have any questions for Don while we're here? Go ahead, Dr. Ramswell.
I know there were properties that were impacted and we were potentially seeking eminent domain. However, I do know that several of those are no longer in that position. How many are still in a position where we would have to seek eminent domain, if any?
So that will be part of the actual design process, which we're in now. So when you looked at we're in the presentation, we're sort of a little bit past the kickoff now, and we began looking at design. So as we finish that or get that design far enough along to determine for instance, is it a roundabout, is it a four-way stop, then those areas that are impacted will be identified, and then any right-of-way questions that we still have left will be answered at that point in time.
Okay, it seems like they're doing some development over in that area, and I would hate somebody to build something and then a year later we're asking them to tear it down. So is any of that new construction property that we might have to seek?
I think that project that we just approved, one of the statements the developer stated was it would not affect the crosstown connector. He was
Yeah, but there were
explicitly clear.
others. I mean, that was a different,
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking more specifically along Beach, I think it is. Further up Beach.
I do believe there is some there. I do not believe it's impacting this project, but we will look into that to make sure.
Okay, that'd be great, because like I said, I would hate to have somebody build their, dream place and, sorry, yeah.
All right. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. I'll start with Dr. Ramswell.
Yeah.
Mr. Destin? Mr. Overdeer?
Yes.
Ms. Abear?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
And Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ayes have it, unanimous, so moved.
Item 4D is staff is bringing back the safety measures we recommend for the Main Street and Kelly Street intersection. In short, the warrant study was completed. Based on the traffic, it did not warrant a three-way stop, but since there were pedestrian injuries at that location, multiple pedestrian injuries, the city still has the right to make that a three-way or all-way stop, and staff is recommending that we do just that. If council approves this tonight, we will implement the three-way stop at that intersection. We have to do some advanced work to warn our residents that this is coming, such as, and this may or may not be the actual method used, but such as going ahead and posting the stop signs and then bagging them and flagging them with signage saying, be prepared to stop, and so that we warn our residents that it's coming, because most people that have been driving that for their entire life are not used to stopping there, so.
I'll make that motion.
Is that recommended motion phase one?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I move to approve the following recommendation: Phase 1, installation of an all-way stop sign and monitoring of the intersection, and if conditions warrant, proceed to Phase 2.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. I have a comment to it. I think doing the phased approach to this is the best way, because we may find out that the three-way or all-way stop is more than sufficient. I think it probably will be, because the main issue is speed coming through a busy intersection. I think it's actually going to improve traffic, because, man, sometimes if you're trying to get off of Kelly onto Main Street at the wrong time of days and go to my house, it's virtually damn impossible. So having everybody stop is going to help all the way around. And then we see you guys provided us some good alternatives in phase 2 if needed. So I'm in support of this, even though I don't get to vote. Dr. Ramswell.
Thank you. So did y'all look into potentially putting speed bumps or some sort of slowdown measure further up?
I don't think that was part of what we looked at for this study.
I believe that was one of my fellow council members' suggestion, was to look at, because they were talking about the speed of folks coming down Main Street and essentially just flying down it and coming around that curve, and then suddenly there's people there. Mr. Overdeer, were you the one that brought that up?
I thought Destin, didn't you, Mr. Destin, mention putting speed bumps on Kelly?
On Kelly and Calhoun, perhaps, with another discussion, but this would be, if you need it.
Right.
It would slow down people.
We have a lot of motorcyclists that use Main Street. A lot of guys would have Harleys and stuff, and speed bumps are motorcycle wreckers. So I'd much favor rumble strips, but of course they make noise. So that would be something to evaluate in phase two. But I think phase one would be the way to go.
The speed is still accepted, we'll have to look at that.
You got that, yeah.
Hopefully it will be.
I'm just not a pro speed bump kind of guy unless in certain situations. Now on Mars Street, speed bumps are okay, but on Main Street, I'm not sure they're very appropriate.
Well, just coming,
True story.
Part of phase one is the monitoring of that intersection after we get the stop signs in. So Don is going to be in charge of that operation with his staff. And so if it warrants us looking at the speed bumps, we can certainly look at the speed bumps on phase two.
and unless I missed it, were we looking at doing like the solar stop signs so that there'd be a light that would flash as well? Or some sort of warning at night?
It was one of the suggestions for sure, similar to what's on Holiday Isle.
Right, so is that, I didn't see it, is that being, the type of sign not being taken into consideration yet?
I don't know that we've made it that far. We were looking to see if council was going to approve the three-way stop, and I mean, we will certainly.
I would say we would upgrade that right away, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and that was one thing we said when we made the original motion was do it now, as in do it 10 months ago, 10 years ago, but yeah.
So, if
is
I
he-
may, all I would like to add to that is, in general, as we work through a process, and you think of the phased approach, so those would normally be something you would add later. So if we go out and put the stop signs in, and we still continue to have problems, that gives us another avenue to improve the intersection versus a normal intersection. So, and part of that reason is, as you move forward, if you look at Main and Kelly, you know, those will be popular. And so the next person that comes say, hey, we want those stop signs that blink. So why would we say yes or no to that person? So as we work through, you work through your process, so you go out and you put your stop signs in. If that works, then you don't need the additional. And then you don't have the maintenance and some of the other issues that come along with it. And there are
Certainly.
other measures we can actually add other than that as well. So that's just part of the process. So I wouldn't recommend that we immediately go to those. I'd recommend that we go with the standard intersection, stop sign control, maybe even stop ahead signs if we want to. We could add that as well. And then look at those later if we continue to have any issues.
Certainly, and with this issue, this arose out of a tragic incident, and so expediency was of the utmost. We were really hoping to get something done rapidly. So, and because of the urgency in trying to get something up, we thought that'd be a great warning for people that maybe hadn't driven the area until nighttime. Oh, look, there's something new. And that was the reason for taking that extra step now.
If I may, with all due respect,
I got a line up here, dude, if you don't mind. I
you
already.
go right ahead. I'm not having much luck with
I
this.
got you. I got you though.
Okay.
Mr. Overdare, because I already butted Dr. Ramswell ahead. Skip. Go ahead.
So as part of this monitoring process, I guess, Don, that you and your folks are going to be doing, I mean, what is it that you would have to observe or see, or what infractions are people going to have to commit that would cause us to then go to phase two?
If we have either additional complaints, or we have an accident, or through observations, whether it be ours or the communities, we see additional need for improvements. But now, typically, we would tend to think of that in regards to something that's data-driven, such as accidents or number of pedestrians. But just simply complaints, honestly, could say, we went out, we made an improvement, and we need to, you know, go to the next level.
Okay, and is there some interest in having the sheriff's department actually helping you monitor that? And if there's speeding tickets and violations, things like that, I mean, you keep track of that?
That would be correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
They've been there every day for about a month, ever since the accident, actually.
And they'll continue.
Yeah, they put their little radar sign up. It's up there now, but the sheriffs themselves have been monitoring the speed, so it's been a team effort. I got Miss Kevin, Miss Abear, and then you, Councilman Destin. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask the question on the reflection around those stoplights like they have on Holiday Island. The cost is why you want to wait and see if the stop signs work themselves, right?
No, not really a cost measure. They're not really that expensive. It's just more, again, as you look at the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which is the federal document that we kind of use to proceed with most of the traffic installations, it gives you that, or encourages you to use that phased approach. So in other words, if you go to an intersection that needs a stop sign, you'd put a regular size. Then you'd go to an oversized. Then you could dual mount, and then you could look at.
That's corner, that's a very dark section. It's dark to where I think if you put a stop sign there, people will miss it. Coming down Main towards Indian, it's dark right there at the T.
Take that into consideration. Kevin?
Appreciate it. That was one of my thoughts, but what did we just install recently for the crosswalks? The solar type of, what was that got installed?
You put up the rapid flashing beacons at the crosswalk.
On the crosswalk sign? So how will those crosswalk signs be impacted by putting in the three-way stop signs? Will they be same spot, moved, you know what I'm saying? Like how?
Well, what I would recommend is that if we go out with the stop signs, since everyone has to stop at the intersection, what I would recommend at some point in time is we remove those and use those somewhere else at either a mid-block crosswalk or some other location within the city where that we need the additional emphasis.
Sure.
Those aren't normally utilized at a stop intersection.
But as of now, those signs with the flashing will still stay when the three stop signs, or I guess there'll be two in those, where those two crossings
That
are.
is correct.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Destin?
With all due respect to the phased approach, and I understand the logic and the rationale behind it, and it's in most cases quite adequate, this is an intersection that nobody will be used to. It is dark. I'm afraid as they come around that corner sometimes they're going 40 or 50 miles an hour. A flashing light there would hopefully be more effective at getting their attention. And so, the council can make a motion directing you to do that, can't we? So moved.
Yes, we can. So moved.
Well, Teresa, could you amend your motion to actually include that?
I will amend my motion that the Phase 1 approach would be the lit stop signs so that they
Second.
light up.
Second stands.
Sounds good enough.
Okay. Got your marching orders done. If it approves. Would you like to make a comment to that?
The only thing I would add to that is that I think we could get them pretty quickly. But then if I said, okay, well, I've got these ordered, but it's going to take 3 weeks, put the stop signs up in 2 weeks or a month, whatever the time frame would be, just to make sure that everybody understands that there might be a time lapse difference because I'll have to get those.
Can you put a regular stop sign up now and then 2 weeks get those and rip them out? Thank you.
I do believe so, ma'am.
That's what he was getting at. Kevin, last comment?
Well, I was just going to add, if we're going to bag it for a week and all that, it doesn't really matter what's underneath the bag, but, so put a smiley face. But
right.
That wasn't it, sir. Just
right.
one more thing. While we're doing the construction out there, if we're going to possibly remove the crosswalk signs, which is the priority, not only to get them to stop, but if that's going to happen one day, is this a time to look at the ones like on Old 98 that have the blinking lights on the road built in with the stop sign? Or I'm just, you know what I'm saying?
We could. I would like to make one note, though. So I've been out there some. So I was out there one morning for a little over an hour. There were 12 pedestrians. Not one used the crosswalk. They walked through the middle of the intersection. Nobody touched the rapid flashing beacon. So again, I just want to throw that out, that you can go in with a lot of things, but along with, as we move forward, and we try to make this city the safest place we can for all of our residents, engineering, education, enforcement, emergency response, we've got to get these folks together and make sure that the community is willing to utilize those things that we put out there for them to keep them safe. So it's possible, but if, we can spend a lot of money for something they don't use, unfortunately. One of the phased approaches is actually, use fences or bushes so that they can only cross there. But I don't think we're ready to go there yet, but
Well, and what
it's
you
possible.
just said underscores why we want to get the stop signs up now.
Yeah, we can stop cars better than jaywalkers. Right? Okay, let's take this to a vote then. We have an amended motion to include the lit stop signs. And we'll start with you, Dr. Ramswell.
Yes.
Mr. Destin? Yes. Mr. Overdare?
Yes.
Ms. Aber?
Yes.
Johnny?
Yes.
And Mr. Smith?
Yes.
All right. Ayes have it, so moved. Lance?
So the next two items, items E and F, Ms. Strickland will be addressing with you. They're for informational purposes. I just want to say that I'm very pleased that Ms. Strickland is able to bring these reports forward. These are firsts for us. There's never been a monthly capital project status report to the council. And when she first came on board, which by the way was only officially 6 months ago, and she did a budget and an audit in between there, she's managed to get this put in place too. So I'm very grateful for her efforts and her long hours she's been putting in getting the council additional information that I think you guys need and have asked for repeatedly in both the capital projects and the overall financial status of the city. So, Crystal, if you want to take over.
Thank you, Lance. Good evening, Mayor and council members. So first up, we have our capital improvement plan, our monthly status report. So here we have listed all of the current projects that we are working on this particular fiscal year. If there's a council objective number assigned to it, I put that in the farthest left-hand column. Some items like the Main Street and Kelly crosswalk safety were made a top priority at a recent council meeting, so I'm making note of that as well. We have our fiscal year 2021 budget, which includes all the roll forwards, any open encumbrances, projects that we were working on last fiscal year that weren't fully completed. They also roll into that fiscal year 2021 budget column. Then we have our year-to-date actuals. Encumbrances are all of the contracts and purchase orders that we've issued to help us accomplish the work. And then we have our status and notes. So the first two pages are the monthly status report, so you can see how we're doing on all the open projects. The next page, the third one, is the 2020 council objectives listed in number order. And on the far right-hand side with status, I have made a note if it's not a capital project or if that project is complete. And I'm really proud that this city has really focused on its council objectives. As you can see, 78% of our budget, of our 5-year plan, is going towards council objectives, which I think is outstanding. And the last page is the 5-year capital improvement plan, just so that you also have that in the back of your mind. We don't always want to be just looking at this current year. We need to keep the future in focus as well. So that's just there for informational purposes. And we will update that each year as we go in to adopt a new budget. We'll continue with the 5-year capital improvement plans. The next report is the operational report.
Do you have a question right now, Dr.
Yes,
Ramswell?
any questions on the capital improvement?
Yeah, hold on 1 second. Do you have a question?
Looking at the capital improvement plan, October 1 to November 30, I see on here under growth necessitated and comp plan, Noriega Point Road for $250,000. I'm just curious why that's there when it's not a city responsibility.
Yeah, Michael, can you help me out with that? Or and it's not entirely a city responsibility, but it's not entirely a county or Okaloosa County or DOT responsibility.
Well,
either.
and let me just jump in here. I think that when the budget was set, these issues relating to the construction of that particular infrastructure had not been raised at that time. So when this budget was put into place, I think that this council approved a budget for $250,000 for that particular infrastructure. That's not to say that it can't be adjusted if we work with the county and potentially any developer that might be adjacent to that property as well. I'm not saying any of that's going to happen. I'm just saying that those are possibilities that are out there. Just because it's in the budget doesn't mean the city is going to spend $250,000 necessarily on that project if new facts arise. So.
Thanks. And then my other question is, I see wayfinding plan signage underneath Harbor CRA, but we had talked about doing it along 98 as well, and I don't see that.
Yeah, that's correct. I didn't have that information at the time this budget went through its first 2 public hearings.
Okay, so is that going to be added subsequently, or how will that be?
Yeah,
included?
we have a project review team, and we meet every other week to review all the projects that are going on, and also important projects like the wayfinding plan that you wanted to have. And those project review team meetings are where we discuss which of the current year projects do we need to table for now, or portions of them, so that we can redirect the funds as staff and design and other types of things get closer to complete. So yeah, we do have a way within the city to change the project statuses. And of course, anytime we do one of those, we have to amend the budget in the same way that we adopted it. So if we're going to make a major transfer between projects, that would come before council for your blessing and approval before we did so. But the project review team would be the way that those recommendations would come to council. And the project review team, by the way, it's a new committee that we've established within, amongst the staff for all the main directors.
Okay, terrific. And then one other question, and that is the capacity improvements, Harbor and Bay. What is that referencing?
That's the harbor capacity study.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm since it was worded a little bit differently than I'd seen it. Thank you.
Got another question for you. Hold on. Ms. Amber.
Crystal, we talked today, and there was a couple of things that you had clarified, and I wanted to make sure that you reiterated that it was basically on council's direction that sometimes the money's shifted to a project that we feel is more important than something that might have been 6 months ago. So you kind of clarified that when you answered Dr. Ramswell. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. See nobody queued up. Go ahead on to your second presentation, ma'am. All right.
Okay, so here, this one is the monthly operating report. So this is for our major funds, the general fund and the 2 CRAs. The first page, we have the general fund status. Of course, this is only 1 month of data. I think I mentioned that our finance staff, everybody is completely new in their positions. So I'm working on accuracy with them right now, and then we will move up to speed. But I'm happy to say they are finishing within 45 days of the month end. So this is what we have now, is just the actuals as of the end of October. The ad valorem looks negative because we did do a transfer from the general fund over to one of the CRAs to help it meet its debt covenants. But that will be filled when the property taxes come in December and January. So we're going to catch up.
Any questions? No questions for you, ma'am.
So what you just said was you had to move some of those over to the CRA to help. So how are we with that CRA, and how can we prevent having to do that? Because I thought we'd made some great strides in the past and saved ourselves quite a bit of money changing, different plans or interest rates or something. going forward, what are your recommendations so we don't have to do this?
This was a timing issue this year. James, could you scroll up to the next page? So on the second page are the two CRAs. The town CRA, you can see, and they have a very negative fund balance, which is because the city, the general fund, paid its debt service for its first few years. And the town CRA was, it just had a very low cash balance at the beginning of the year. It didn't have enough to make 3 full months of the debt service without receiving the city's portion of the property taxes. But now that we've done that, I foresee it going smoothly from here on out. I don't see the need for that at the end of this coming year.
So this was an anomaly due to timing?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is a timing anomaly.
Great, thank you.
No further questions. Press on. Up to you, Lance.
Thanks, sir. Finally, I have just wanted to remind council that all city facilities will be closed on December the 24th and 25th, and also on January the 1st. And I also wanted to let council know that I'll be taking some time in the next 2 weeks to spend at home with family. I'm not leaving the area. So I still have that thing on my hip all the time, so if you need me, I'll still answer. But I got a little girl that's almost 5 years old, and Wednesday she will become 5, and I promised her that I would take her Christmas shopping, so.
Well, City Manager, I think this has been quite a year, and I would really like to make a motion that December the 31st, New Year's Eve, also be a holiday for staff.
I second that. That was what I was going to.
Yeah, y'all deserve it. I know it's been a rough year, and hey, take advantage of
Does
another
anyone want to
holiday.
speak in opposition to that motion?
The governor gave the state all the employees off, so I definitely think our team deserves that day off too.
I believe I'm mandated to take a roll call vote, but we'll start with you, Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Ms. Abear.
Yes.
Mr. Overdeer.
Yes.
Mr. Destin.
Yes.
Dr. Ramswell.
Yes.
Vote is unanimous. You guys get an extra day off. Well
Thank you all
deserved.
very much for
Yeah,
that.
thank y'all for all you've done this year. I know it's been overwhelming.
Righty then.
Lastly, I just want to wish the council and the citizens of Destin a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope next year will be even better than this year.
Roger that. We're going to move into our public hearing portion of the meeting. I think this might be a good time to take a quick 5-minute break. Just take a refresher at 7:20. So we'll just take a real quick 5-minute break and get right back at it. Get the meeting back in order here. All right, folks, we will reconvene tonight's meeting. Before we go to the public testimony portion, Kyle, City Manager, do you have one last announcement?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I forgot one important announcement. I'm going to let Jeff, our grants manager, make the announcement, but it is a Christmas present to me because it's been a long time coming. So Jeff, if you want to do the honors.
I'll be glad to. I'm excited to announce that Okaloosa County has issued the city a notice to proceed today for Captain Royal Melvin Park Improvement Project. This notice allows us to move forward with the construction phase of this project, and we're going to have a pre-construction meeting with the contractor, Destin Water Users, city staff, and we're scheduled that for December 29th. At the conclusion of that meeting, we will issue a notice to proceed for the general contractor, and work should begin shortly after. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Excellent. Thank you. That's great news.
Tell Santa Claus thanks a lot.
No problem.
All right, that is great news. Now, back to the business of the day. Kyle, take it away.
Alrighty, hang on just a second, let me get there. Yeah. All right, we have the second reading of ordinance number 2018 LC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, amending Article 3 definitions of the Land Development Code, amending Article 8 of the Land Development Code to prohibit motorized scooter rental businesses, offices, and other related land uses within the City of Destin, providing for findings of fact, providing for incorporation into the Land Development Code, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date, and this is a public hearing.
All right, thanks, sir. And before we get into the public comment period of this public ordinance, the reason we had a delay in the second reading from the first reading was we were waiting for a legal case somewhere else in Florida to take place, see how that ruling went before we came back. Kyle, is that correct?
Yeah, I think Ms. Kopp was monitoring that.
Go ahead, Ms. Kopp.
That was the case in Panama City Beach, and the city did prevail in that case.
All right, that gives us great confidence to proceed then. At this portion of the public hearing, I'll open it up for public comment. Is there anyone here that wants to make comment about the banning of scooter rentals in the city limits? Seeing none. James, do you have anybody queued up?
No, sir.
Seeing none. Any comments, emails, or text messages?
No, sir.
All righty then, I'll entertain a motion at this time,
I'll
and
make
then
that
we'll have
motion.
discussion.
I move the city council approve proposed ordinance 20-18-LC on second reading.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Is there any comments or discussion needed? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and take a roll call vote. Mr. Schmidt, we'll start with you.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Ms. Aber.
Yes.
Mr. Overdeer.
Yes.
Mr. Destin.
Yes.
Dr. Ramswell.
Yes.
Vote is unanimous, so moved. Kyle?
Thanks, Mayor. Next, we have item 5B. This is the second reading of ordinance number 2031 CN. An ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, amending Article 7 general provisions of the city charter to create a new section prohibiting the conveyance, sale, lease, or other transfer of interest of city parks without a supermajority vote of the city council, providing for a referendum on the charter amendment, providing for a ballot question, providing for a vote at the March 9, 2021 special election on whether to prohibit the conveyance, sale, lease, or other transfer of interest of city parks, subject to certain exceptions, as provided in the charter, providing for coordination with the supervisor of elections, providing for conflict, severability, and an effective date, and this is a public hearing.
Thank you very, very much. Well, I'll enter into the public comment portion of this public hearing, and at the conclusion of that, I'll entertain a motion. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak to this ordinance 20-31-CN? Seeing none, do we have anyone queued up online?
No, sir.
No, sir. All right.
I'll
Ray?
go ahead and make the motion then.
Okay, Ray, go ahead, Dr. Ramswell.
I move to approve ordinance 20-31-CN on second reading and direct the city clerk to immediately forward the ballot language to the supervisor of elections.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion on this particular motion? Seeing none, we'll start with you, Dr. Ramswell.
Yes.
Mr. Destin?
Yes.
Mr. Overdeer?
Yes.
Ms. Aber?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
The vote is unanimous, so moved. Thank you very much. On to the consent agenda, number 6.
Mayor, I'd like to pull item 6B, please.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda minus B.
Okay. I have a motion, I have a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll start with you, Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Aber?
Yes.
Mr. Overdeer?
Yes.
Mr. Destin?
Yes.
Dr. Ramswell?
Yes.
That is a unanimous vote, so moved. Dr. Ramswell, you pulled it, you started.
Thanks. So I just had a question for staff. Obviously, we discovered, or you discovered, that there was no fire alarm system at City Hall, as we discussed earlier. But I wanted to ask, in terms of this contract and other things having to do with fire monitoring and fire safety, are there sprinklers at City Hall? So there's been nothing at City Hall. Okay. What about the annex?
Fire extinguishers?
But the one thing we do have at City Hall is we do have some smoke detectors inside the ductwork. I didn't know that was the case until Ray turned his heater on a few weeks ago. And we had to vacate the building.
Do you have a fire
But in that
extinguisher?
case, we did have to call Destin Fire Control District. With the installation of the new system, that'll be automated. So if something happens in the middle of the night or on Sunday afternoon, Destin Fire Control will know about it.
What about the annex? Is there sprinkler or monitoring anything here?
There is monitoring, but no sprinkler system.
Is that something you're looking into, or anyone, whomever the appropriate person is?
We have not taken a look at that. We certainly could, but I think the mayor just referenced that would be a very expensive proposition.
Yeah, you got to install those during construction.
Well,
We can
food
just
for
get extra
thought.
fire extinguishers.
Right, no. Food for thought, and, potentially we can pull it up for future discussion, but I did want to clarify those, so thank you.
All right, do you want to make a motion then?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make the motion then to approve item 6B.
Need a second?
Second.
All right, I got a motion and a second. The only recommendation I would be is make sure, maybe have fire control district come in and take an evaluation on how many fire extinguishers we need so staff could defend themselves in the case of a fire. All right, okay, we have a motion, we have a second. We'll start with you, Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Ms. Aber.
Yes.
Mr. Overdeer.
Yes.
Mr. Destin.
Yes.
And Dr. Ramswell.
Yeah.
All righty, Mr. Braden unfortunately wasn't able to attend, so we will start with Dr. Ramswell.
Thanks. I just had a question about the status of the utility undergrounding selection.
Yeah, so you may recall, we had the special meeting of council where the council awarded you ranked the bidders. You awarded UFOC the number 1 slot, CPWG the number 2 slot. Then we had a bid protest from CPWG. What happens under our procurement policy when there's a bid protest is the city manager first issues a written determination on whether that is a good protest or not, essentially. The city manager issued a written determination that it was not a good protest. He had found the grounds baseless. What happens then is the aggrieved party at that point has 5 days to appeal that to the city council. The aggrieved party, CPWG, in this case, elected not to proceed any further, and they did not appeal that. So we are now negotiating with UCOF a contract for those undergrounding project manager services. And once we have something that's satisfactory at the staff and attorney level, we're going to bring that back and work with Dewey on that, and then bring it back to city council as a whole to approve or disapprove, make changes to, et cetera.
Terrific. Thanks for the update. And then the other thing I had is, I think we all got an email today about the collapse of the pavilion at James Lee Park, and I spoke with Mr. Warren about it, but obviously you all weren't privy to our conversation. So could you sort of elaborate on what you told me, Mr. Warren, so everyone knows the status?
Thank you, Dr. Ranswell. Absolutely. We did receive an email with some pictures about James Lee Park, and it appears that one of the pavilions did collapse, at least part of the roof did. And we did reach out to Okaloosa County and the TDC, and they are aware of it. That is the responsibility of the leasee who maintains that. So they are in the process of working on that, but Okaloosa County and the TDC did assure us that they are in close coordination on that so that they can get that performed as quickly as possible. And Ms. Bell is also involved in that, as it is in the city limits.
Great. And then the final thing I had tonight is, Mr. Burgess, I had spoken with you, I think, a few weeks ago, or maybe it was just a week. I've lost all track of time. 98, where we have the new 3-lane and then it drops down to the 2-lane. I've had numerous complaints, and I noticed it myself, how all of a sudden if you're in that right lane, you're stuck having to turn, or people suddenly jerking and causing rapid brakes and such. Have you been able to look into that and determine whether they're going to address signage further back or anything of that nature?
Yes, ma'am. I reached out to the construction inspection engineer, metric engineering is part of that project, and also Ms. Kelly Rice out of District 3's office in Chipley, and expressed your concerns and the concerns of others that there's not sufficient notification to let you know that you need to start merging left. If your wish is to continue to go west on 98. They have forwarded that complaint to the engineer of record, and we are awaiting their comments and possible corrective actions. But as soon as I know something about that, I will be sure to let you all know.
Terrific. Thank you so much. And Ms. Firth, I see you're still here. Do you know when the next Beach Advisory Committee meeting is? Is it going to be at the end of January? Okay, just want to confirm. That's it. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy New Year. I know we're going to be, my daughter says that everybody at school has discussed this, and at midnight on New Year's Eve, they're all going to yell Jumanji so they can get out of this year. So I share that with you because I think we're all ready to move on. So thank you all.
Mr. Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. I understand the issues that COVID has vested on top of the city staff and their ability to do their functions, but the biggest complaints that I have received since I came back on board the council is the amount of time that it takes to get a building permit. I spoke to Mr. Z, and he is very confident that the new program that we are installing will greatly help the issue. He says it will segregate things into major building permits and minor building permits, and also will be able, at the touch of a button, tell you where it is in the system. So he thinks that that will help a lot. I know that we've made it a priority. Mr. Warren unfortunately informed me, and probably some more of you, about the issues we're having with the contractor who's having issues with the demand on their time, but we need to continue to press on that. And I would like to ask the city manager to talk to the community development folks to see what other ideas they can have and may come up with to speed the process, because, you know, the downfall or the downside to this is twofold. One, people don't come and get permits because it may take them a month or two to get a permit, and so they just don't do it. That means we're losing major funds. And the second, and probably even more important, is since they don't get the permits, we're not there inspecting what they're doing to make sure that what they're doing meets the code. And so this is an issue that we have to address. I'm willing to give the staff time to work on it, and I have every confidence that they'll fix it or make great strides toward that anyway, but it's something that has to be fixed. And so I'd ask the city manager, and we won't make a motion tonight, but I think he will go forward with the staff to come up with some other, solutions that can work in conjunction with the computer. And we need to stay on that program or software or whatever it is so that we can get the data necessary to see where the problems are. And that's all I have on that issue, Mayor.
That's probably been, out of all the complaints I get, probably number one as well.
Yep.
And seeing how my boys have 3 businesses in the city limits, when we had to apply for permits ourselves in the last couple of years, it was terrible experience, to say the least.
And we can do better, and we have to do better.
300%. Mr. Overdeer.
Nothing significant other than it's been a pleasure serving with everybody this year, and I look forward to another great productive year. We got a lot accomplished this year in spite of all the things that came up and all the roadblocks that you had. And the staff, I think, did an excellent job. Everybody here on the council did an excellent job. We are light years ahead of where we were a couple years ago, so I found it very, very gratifying to be part of this council. And I wish everybody a Happy New Year and a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Hebert.
A couple things, and I had talked to the staff today, and basically they gave me some very awesome answers, but I wanted to make sure that they got to get that credit to the citizens that may not know this. The first question I had was about the street lights. The individual that came in and told us how many hundreds of lights were out throughout the city and how the process was, and Michael had a process of what he was doing. Lance, could you reiterate not only the process and how that happens, but also the website that citizens can go to for Gulf Power? If the light by their house or down by their business is out, they can report it. And if the Gulf Power starts getting all these reports from people that are physically seeing these lights, that would prompt it. So could you address that one piece for me first?
Absolutely. First off, I would ask that any of the residents in town, if they see a light that's out anywhere in the city of Destin, that they contact Gulf Power. Either you can go to the Gulf Power website, and you can log that light in. There's a system in place. You can also download an app from Gulf Power to do the exact same thing, which is what I have on my phone. I'm doing my walks at night. I just log them right as I'm going. And if you can't remember that, if you go to the city's website, we have a link, so you can link to that site and report it. The importance of that is because Gulf Power does not do regular surveys of the lights. They only react to the lights when they receive notification from the public. And with all the 13,500 residents out there helping us, I think we can get this taken care of a lot faster than one or two staff members trying to do it every night. So I would appreciate any help that the residents are able to offer on that. And then for the other, I will ask Michael to address how they're handling that.
Michael, the process that you're handling with the level of the Gulf Power associate about how you report the lights and the timing and the process, because you were saying that you've put like the process of here's the lights are out and what they're doing about it, and can you just clarify where you're at with some of those?
Sure. We follow the same process the city manager just described a moment ago. We use the exact same tools. Last week, we had one of our staff members come in about 5 p.m. and rode the whole city over a couple of nights, and he logged every street light and every pole number that was out. We have that information now, and we're entering that into the same website that the city manager mentioned earlier. And what we'll typically do is we'll give them a few weeks, and then we'll do a follow-up and see how many of the lights that we initially reported were out. Once you report a light out, it turns from a little green icon to a red icon. And we'll go back and we'll make sure, or we'll just see how many of those red ones have been converted back to green. And seemingly they've been repaired. Now, a few of them, we had a fella on Indian Bayou North, I believe. He's reported the same street light out. He's done exactly what the city manager suggested. He's called the city. There is an issue with the light. It's not an issue with the light bulb itself. It's actually the underground power source for that light. So it's a little bit more complicated. But we just asked the citizenry be patient with Gulf Power, that we have like 1,450 lights within the city limits. And they go out constantly. So it's I don't want to say it's kind of like herding cats, but it is a little bit, because by the time you get some repaired, others go out.
Michael, I'm sorry, I wanted to build on something he said, if that's okay. So I have reported 3 lights right here on Indian Trail as you turn to go into Indian Bayou neighborhood. I've reported them twice, and it's been months, they're still out. Have you seen anything or heard anything about any issues there?
Okay, hold on, real quick, let me get back. The last part of this was, and this is what Lance and I asked, as Dewey is our representative with Gulf Power, as our representative, for him to call and let it get to that level now with Bernard and say, we've tried to do this at the level that our employees work with your folks, but we're going nowhere with this. So instead of all of us calling him, as he said, you know, if you got issues with Destin, I want to hear from you, let Mr. Destin, our contact with Gulf Power, take it to Gulf Power as a city question of, are you getting this information? Is there some way we can get these lights fixed sooner? Like you said, Mr. Ramswell, there's 3 and 4 and 6 months these lights have been out.
And we, in fact, discussed this with our franchise attorney at the meeting on Tuesday, and he had a number of good suggestions for us. One of them was to set up that meeting with Mr. Johnson. And the problem is, there is no time frame in which they say they will fix the lights. We tell them, and it could be 2 months. You know, I know they don't want that kind of reputation. I know they want to do a better job. So after the first year, we will be catching up with Mr. Johnson, and I think they have one person that is in charge of making sure that that kind of issue is fixed. So we plan to talk to them and find out what we can do, and the franchise attorney had a couple other suggestions for us, so we're going to work on it.
Great, so you're going to be like liaison in general, not just for the undergrounding?
I'll talk to Mr. Johnson, and I volunteered, and I've been talking to him for as long as he's been working, which is about 30 years.
Would you like for us to issue you a 6-foot stick or an 8-foot stick? Okay.
Okay. Thank you,
Right now,
Mr.
this is all I
Destin.
got, but I'll get you a big stick if you need one. Thank you. All right.
I have one last thing, and I did talk to, Crystal about this today, because I've had a few people ask me, why are we now paying $3 million for the fire department to have the Bay Cottage lot, you know, because we didn't want them to be on our park. And I tried to explain to the citizens that we pay a millage rate every year in our taxes, that we're not paying for that. But to be more clear, Crystal, would you explain why this, quote, $3 million is not coming out of the taxpayers, like right now we got to fork it out? This is money that the firehouse already has?
Right. The fire district is a separate legal entity from the city. It is not part of the city. It is not part of the city's millage rate. They have their own. They have a cap of 1 mil that they collect from all the households. And they also collect impact fees from developers. So anytime a developer is going to bring in more commercial units or more residential dwelling units, there will be an impact on the number of calls the firehouse receives or the number of calls the police department receives. And so those impact fees are calculated out. And so the fire department has collected impact fees with each of the developments over the years. And my understanding, I don't have all of the details on how they're funding the new firehouse and this property purchase, but I do understand that it is from their existing millage rate and also from impact fees that they have collected over the years.
And thank you for clarifying that, Crystal, because I do know that there were a lot of people that found out about this $3 million property and thought we were physically going to have to write a check for that. So thank you for that. And then my last part is just thank you for all the hard work y'all do. Thank you for keeping us up to speed. Thanks for just dealing with the day in and day out grind. And we appreciate what you're doing. And I'm tickled to death to be on this council and representing this city. So Merry Christmas to everybody and have a Happy New Year.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. King.
Nothing major tonight. Just echo what Teresa said, and just thanks to the city staff and everybody there working hard. And Merry Christmas. That's all I got.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you, sir. Just wanted to double check with Lance that we are good for January 4th with action items on the livery vessel. From the livery vessel workshop that we had, y'all are bringing stuff to us on the 4th meeting, January 4th.
We'll be bringing back some information that was requested during that workshop. Yep.
Gotcha. All right. Besides that, Merry Christmas. It's been a good 3 meetings, good year so far, and looking forward to many more years and looking forward to the city next year, 2021 Jumanji, like Dr. Ramswell said.
Yeah, that was
Thank you.
awesome. I wrote that down on my hand. All right, I actually got something to say. I know, everybody just shocked, just silence. No, apart from wishing everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year for everyone in the room and everybody on that happen to be watching, I want to go ahead and take this opportunity for a New Year's resolution as well, because we don't meet again until January 4th. I made this part of my campaign promise 2 years ago that I would try to hold our meetings to 2 hours. Well, even before I made the resolution, look at us, it's 7:52, and we accomplished a lot today. We had a lot of presentations. So my gift to everyone in this room, and hopefully our constituents, is we will try to stay in the 2.5 hour time frame, because that's how you do good governance. That's my New Year's resolution, and I hope the council members can help me not fail at that too awful bad. But we did get a lot done. I think participating in the staff briefings during the week, I know I'm going to go. We can ask a lot of questions that we may have when we get our briefing documents that will speed the process. And if nothing else, at least all of you sitting here will be informed. You'll understand what we're got to talk about. So I think that was great. I think this was a good indication tonight's meeting of how that y'all going in there and meeting with our staff members is going to really be good. And the reason that I want to make this my resolution is I feel like we got a really big plate to accomplish in front of us in 2021. So the more efficient we are, I think the more effective we're going to be, and we're going to get more stuff done. We have undergrounding Highway 98. We got beach acquisitions. We haven't even had our visioning session to see what else we're going to come up with. So I'm really looking forward to 2021, and I will really shake the dust off my feet of 2020. Thank you very much. Up next, Kim, would you have anything to add?
No, I don't. I was just going to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you much. It still looks like you're at the beach behind you, even though I know
Really?
you're not.
It's white on my computer.
It looks nice and bright and light.
Not the beach.
I
Wish it was.
Well, I mean, it's dark now, so it doesn't, but it did earlier. Kyle.
Yeah, I got another executive session to call, and if we settle this case, we'll be down to one litigation case in this city, so that's a pretty significant accomplishment. So this is the case of Stephen Drummond v. City of Destin et al., case number 2019 CA 000-152F in the Circuit Court of the First Judicial Circuit in and for Okaloosa County, Florida. Pursuant to Section 286.011(8) Florida statutes, I'm requesting that the City Council hold an executive session on January 4, 2021, beginning at 5:30 p.m., so that the Council may discuss matters relating to settlement negotiations or strategy sessions related to litigation expenditures. The executive session will be recorded by a certified court reporter, and the transcript shall be made a part of the public record upon the conclusion of the litigation. Participants in the executive session will be council members Kevin Schmidt, Johnny King, Teresa Hebert. Skip over to our Dewey Destin, Preble Ramswell, Rodney Braden, Mayor Gary Jarvis, City Manager Lance Johnson, City Attorney Kyle Bauman, City Land Use Attorney Kimberly Romano Kopp, and the city's litigation attorneys William Graham and Jeffrey Foster. And I do have a recommended motion on there if someone would be so kind as to make it.
I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Roll call vote. Dr. Ramswell.
Yes.
Mr. Destin.
Yes.
Mr. Overdeer.
Yes.
Ms. Hebert.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Okay, vote is unanimous, so moved. What else?
Nothing else from me, just Merry Christmas.
All right, before I can hit the gavel, we'll make one more opportunity for public comment on the actions and comments and everything we did tonight. Anybody in the room want to come up to the podium and make public comment? Seeing none, do you have anyone, James? No, seeing none, do you have anyone? I'm not giving anyone a second chance.